I decided to come to the University of San Diego because my mother had a dream. She wanted me to go to the same school or be taught by the Religious of the Sacred Heart, just like the Kennedy women. But there was also another reason too. I was at Cathedral Girls High School at the time, and I came up to the college for a tour. And when I entered the halls, and there were tapestries on the walls, I felt very at home and very comfortable. And then during that time, Mother Rossi approached me and offered me a partial scholarship, working scholarship, to come up there. And I went home and I said, Daddy, I really want to go to that school. And he said, great, you can go. So those are the reasons why I wanted to come to the University of San Diego. I was here at the University of San Diego from 1964 through 1968. And you know, to me, it was a golden time as I look back on it, because we didn't seem to have the pressures that some of the students have now. We were we had jobs that we had to go to, to help with tuition, but we just relaxed, studied and worked hard, but just enjoyed college life and the environment of the University of San Diego. In terms of campus unrest, there was a protest. Two teachers, a philosophy teacher and an English teacher, had organized a protest against the Vietnam War. But we didn't experience what other places did, and I was kind of glad. We were a little bit insulated from that. So to me, I was happy not to be involved in all that and to have that hotbed of revolt going on. My biggest challenge was to fit it all in, because I loved going to the dances. I loved going to the ball games, basketball and football games. But when I came up here, I had to study really hard. I remember I was on a schedule my freshman year. I could go out Friday night to a dance or Saturday night to a dance, but Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon and evening, I had to study. But I managed to fit it all in. I have a good time, but yet keep up with my studies. Right. So I would say that was one of the biggest challenges. The core values are values that were instilled in me by my parents, but also reinforced by the university. And if there's one thing I can say that students across all generations, when they go to the University of San Diego, they learn through maturity and wisdom the high quality of life in many aspects, spiritual, physical, emotional. This university, for me, shaped my life in a very dramatic way. And it was the core values. And I like to go back to Reverend Mother Rosalie Clifton Hill. Beauty, truth, and goodness. Those were the hallmarks of the university, as well as very strong scholarship. And I think that as long as the university continues with that, I think that they will influence generations in very positive and dynamic ways. A lot of people my age might talk about fraternity parties or sorority parties, or they might talk about incidents in the classroom. But one of the most dramatic things for me was watching the ladies in hats and gloves come up to the university to alumni meetings at the San Diego College for Women. I said, I want to be one of those ladies one day. I want to come back here, and I want to give back to the university. And so I had a lot of fun experiences, but I think that was probably one of the most, how should I say, it made such a big impression on me and that's why I came back and got involved in alumni events. In 1978, I was the San Diego chapter of the Alumni of the Sacred Heart president, and Then in 1989 through 1991, I was on the national board. And probably I enjoyed those positions and wanted to stay involved with Sacred Heart as well because I truly believe in the education of the religious of the Sacred Heart, which was a big influence on USD as well, of course. But I also have so many friends, and the camaraderie among the ladies is remarkable. So I'm a person who likes to be involved in ladies' organizations, but I think it's the spirit of that organization and the fact that it goes back a couple hundred years and the fact that the education is so valuable. That's one of the reasons I was involved in the Alumni of the Sacred Heart. Yes, I'm a staff technical writer at Qualcomm. And I got into that in a very unusual way. I was writing a romance novel, and it was technically based. My dad, who was a group engineer at General Dynamics, was working on a space mission, the Galileo mission to Jupiter. And it was a space shuttle mission. And I decided at that point I wanted to write about that. So I did, but I had to digest engineering books. I mean, I had to digest descriptions of missiles and how they operated, and I did it. And my critique group had to tell me, Sandy, you got to get on with the love story and stop all the technical stuff. So that's how I got involved in technical writing. I realized, thanks to my dad, I think, in many ways, I had an aptitude for learning technical information and writing about it. And that's how I got involved. Plus, I really enjoyed working on the cutting edge of technology because I've worked for Hewlett-Packard, Qualcomm, Cray Super Servers, which eventually became Sun Microsystems. So I've had a wonderful career, but I had an aptitude for it that I didn't realize I had. And that's where the university comes in again, because I got such a strong writing curriculum here. And I also credit Sister Sally Fury because she made us use formatting. You know, she made us follow an exact format. And that's a big part of what technical writing is. So that's why I got involved in tech writing. And I've had a varied career. I've worked on hardware. I worked at Hewlett-Packard on the production line for the little pens that you put into their printers. And now I'm working on chipset hardware documents for Qualcomm for their QCT division. The favorite place for me is Camino Patio because to me it was the heart of, well, not the heart. The heart is Founders Chapel. But Camino Patio was the heart of the social life of the university when I was up here. I mean, that's where you met guys from across the street from the San Diego College for Men, you know, if you were going to have lunch together, or that's where you met your friends, and then you went off to your classes together. So it was such a beautiful place. It was a tremendous garden. So I think that's why that was my favorite place on campus. There's a couple of people who had a big impact on my life. I would say Sister Schaefer, Sister Pat Schaefer, Sister Sally Fury, and Madam Jeanette Rigsby. Sister Schaefer was my freshman advisor. So she introduced me to the ropes of the college. And a fond memory of her is I had to write a note for Reverend Mother's feast day. And Sister Sally Fury really sharpened my skills, both as a writer and as a critical thinker. And those skills I've used in my career, at home, throughout my whole life. And Jeanette Rigsby was not only a friend, she was a teacher, but she gave me a window into the European culture. Since I come from a Polish-American family, I had that somewhat, but speaking another language, thinking in another language, with such a dynamic teacher, that really changed my life, and that prepared me to travel, to work where I do now, because I work in a very multicultural environment with a lot of engineers from China, India, Japan. So I think those three people were the most influential. I think the basketball games, those were some of my fondest memories. We would all go together, my friends and I, and Bernie Bickerstaff was playing at that time, and it was just the whole spirit of the university, the sports end of it, because of course the spirit of the university is multifaceted, but I really enjoyed that. So I have a lot of fond memories of that, and I also have fond memories of the dances we went to on Friday nights. So I think those are probably some of my fondest memories. I really enjoyed Reverend Mother's Feast Day. That was a San Diego College for Women experience. But we had to get all dressed up in our cap and gowns, and I always liked to dress up formally. So I really enjoyed that, and I also enjoyed the First Friday Masses because we had to dress up. So the university instilled, I think, a sense of culture and a very keen sense of wanting to do the right thing and look right as well as behave right. And I think that some of those experiences helped me during my work life. I was the first one of my family who came up here. After that, my dad followed and got his degree in business up here. My aunt got her master's degree in counseling. My cousin got his law degree, and my cousin Jessica got her accounting degree. Besides, my mom worked for Sister Sally Fury part-time. So I feel like my family is a USD family. And the really neat thing was that my son graduated from here. My daughter-in-law graduated from here. Her mother did. So it stayed in the family when my son married. So I think that was really neat. And I think John Trifoletti had us, my dad, my son, and I, take the gifts down for one homecoming mass, 3 generations. And that made a big impression. And I have very warm memories of that. So I'm USD through and through.